Welcome to the stage. Touch podcast. Welcome to the stage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling two dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the stage. This is Sage Touch.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sage Touch, a BladeBound Saga podcast. I'm going to be here today with my co-host. You know him as Rice Combo Online. And once we get his camera figured out, he's going to be here. Today, we're going to
but
be...
my camera is not showing up the right way.
Also, what is it? Okay. We'll figure that out. Today, though, we're going to be talking about the Quickstart Adventure that most of you have run through. It's probably your first adventure that you've run in a Daggerheart setting, and it is the Sablewood Messengers. I've run it one time as a DM. Daniel has run it, 50.
This camera hates me. Yes, I've run it like almost 30 times, but I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Yeah, it's fun. His camera, I promised it was working before. We had it working before, but you know what? Every time we try to do anything, technology just hates us. So, but yeah, we can go ahead. I'll go ahead and get started with you guys. As a new Daggerheart GM, maybe I can give a little bit of insight, and then once there he is, maybe I see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey,
gosh, technical difficulties for sure.
Yeah, every time, without fail. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about the Sablewood Messengers. This is the intro to Daggerheart. This is the one shot that you either run or that you play in.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daniel, what do you think? Should we just go ahead and hop right into it?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Let's share the screen.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at
Share
this stuff. Maybe. What is going on? Where is all my stuff? This is like the most technical difficulties we've seen. There it is. Share. Gravy. Okay.
Salt dudes,
Cool.
what's up, man?
What's up? Yeah, everyone on the chat. Okay.
On YouTube.
Daggerheart, Sablewood Messengers. AJ, I'm sure you've told everyone that's what we're gonna do because I had technical difficulties. So, with that, let's just kind of, I guess, dive in.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. If you are the GM, and this is a lot of people's first time into Daggerheart, you do kind of have that responsibility of teaching the mechanics and making sure everyone knows how to play, read their character sheet, the basics.
For the most part, a lot of the times, like when you're playing this game, depending on if you're playing it with conventions or you're playing it at, what's it called? Like on start playing launch party stuff, you're likely going to pick one of the like starter characters, but that doesn't mean that this adventure doesn't work with like custom characters. You can totally bring your own characters to the game, and do just as well.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I feel like at least the one I ran, we had only one person take a pre-made, and the rest built their characters. And I feel like that kind of helps you learn the character sheet already and how to navigate it if you do build your own character. So
Yeah, and a lot of this I think also tells you how, like, I don't know if we're necessarily going to go over the fact like every single one of the pre-mades or even go over like necessarily the rules, because I think our intent is to talk about the actual adventure, because a lot of people have like questions like, how do I actually run the quick start? How do I get places from point A to point B? What happens when my players say something really weird in the tavern? It's like that I'm not ready for. We have a lot of, like, I think I've ran it over 30 times now, and so there's a lot of things that there's some things where every quick start, every game of the Sablewood Messengers is always a little bit different.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've played in a handful and then run one, and they've never been the same.
Yeah.
The tavern's always something crazy. But anyways, yeah. So let's go ahead and we'll start, I guess, with the first act here, or maybe even before the first act.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people miss this. A lot of
Yeah.
people miss this little intro paragraph of Marlowe Fairwind, the right-hand sorceress of King Aramis, has gathered her trusted allies to carry an important package to Hush, a small village in the ancient forest of Sablewood. The crate is large and heavy and sealed with magic, addressed to the Whitefire Arcanist. You've been given a map and a carriage and a promise upon your reward. A lot of people jump straight to, if I scroll all the way down here, and they go to the game, and they just start with where are we at? Like this intro paragraph. If you start here, your players really don't know why they're here. And so I think the first tip that I definitely will say is, and it's weird because the how to play Daggerheart is here in this middle section. All the pre-mades are here in the middle section, but the technical start of the adventure is here. There's like a white mark here, or label here, but yeah, I think that's the first part, because a lot of the times, like I think in the times I've run it, if I do forget this little section, everyone's like, oh, why are we here? Why are we in this forest? We have a carriage with something and we're going somewhere. But this idea of Hush, the Whitefire Arcanist, and then King Emerus like really solidifies the adventure. And you don't need Marlowe. This can be anyone. You can say Barnacle, this rogue with many connections, or Garrick, this warrior that has served King Emerus for blah 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 blah. Kari, this a giant who has tended to the lands, or Varian, a ranger who has navigated the Sablewood before. Like you can make it to fit anyone, and especially if you have other characters, other players that are not part of the pre-mades, you can definitely run it by just giving a new flavor to why King Emerus gathered the group. So.
Yeah, I also think it gives a little bit of like a backbone for connection questions. Well, you're like, hey, okay, I guess we all are part of this town, and that we are part of some sort of group that the King Emerus has decided to trust us to with this package. So it it helps people if you've never done connection questions. It kind of gives the players and the GM a starting point, like, yeah, you guys are all in this town, you guys are a group. Now you can do your connection questions from that.
Which actually leads me to something that the game actually doesn't say. There are, let's see, there are portions in each character. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I'm scrolling maybe. Oh, right here. So these connections, where they do these mini pseudo connections with "I trust you with my life," or "I once considered you close," or "I owe you a favor," rather than having those regular connections. Me personally, I nix it. I don't do this. I always go with the base questions.
Yeah.
Which, if you are using Demiplane or are using like pre-made character sheets, you do have to go into like the book itself and then find, like, so for Marlowe, you're going to go to the sorcerer section and you're going to find those connection or those questions here, like it's on the right hand side of every class, and those are the questions that you're going to give your players to basically like actually run connection questions. Otherwise, all they'll see is I trust you with my life. And they build connections, but not nearly as well as the full connection questions engine.
Yeah, no, the base book connection questions definitely give a narrative. This is just like, oh, okay, cool. This I trust this character with my life for some reason.
Yeah.
I feel like having that your players having those conversations between themselves definitely gives ownership on the game and their characters, and it solidifies them as a group. So don't skip
and especially if
connection
you
questions.
have custom characters.
Mm-hmm.
Custom characters make it so that way every character or every story is a little different as to why they're here. Like I've had the Whitefire Arcanist one time just because of how the players were answering questions during connection questions. I changed it to like the cold or the frost beaming Arcanist or something, and I changed it completely based and changed the Arcanist itself because the Arcanist is just like a story engine to finding the mage at the end of the story. So, anyways, other than that, for the most part, it's well broken down pretty well. Like these are sheets that you can cut out if you want. You can just give them the sheet for them to read. It tells them exactly what you're looking at. So I won't go too much into this because from this point you're kind of just hey, look at your character sheet. There, if you're doing this in real life, you have this pullout. If you're on demiplane, you can click on the individual like sections and get more information about that. Like so, this part I don't think we need to go into, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So, but I will say you should, especially if they're new to Daggerheart, teach them the game. I think one thing I always say when I tell people to teach or like learn the game the first time is try to unlearn the first portions of like a different tabletop system because there is a level of like unlearning like Dungeons and Dragons and like stuff like group checks or whatnot. 4 sheets equals too many sheets. I think I can agree with that to an extent. Though it's intended to be played with cards, so you actually have your cards out. I think works as a nice tool. And it's really only 2 sheets. It's really just this one, which kind of just gives you like a breakdown. And this is still just like teaching you the game.
Yeah, that's more like your backstory sheet. Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think all that is covered. The first sheet's all covered in your character sheet as well, I think.
Yeah, and so like once again, like this is just teaching them how to read the character sheet and how each of these like mechanics work, like action rolls, what duality is. And I have like videos on the channel now with different how to read options, and then so this stuff's like what the GM should use and how like the GM will use things and stat blocks there. So yeah. Okay, the story though is really kind of the main chunk and what you really kind of want to focus on. I say that even though more than like 27 pages out of the 39 are technically teaching the game and character sheets, but they are a chunk of where you're going to spend time at the table. So you want to break down the acts for us?
Yeah. So Act 1 is the merchant cart. This is when your PCs are about to arrive in the city of Hush, and they see a knocked over cart. You see a Strixwolf is feeding on the driver who is dead, and this is kind of like, hey, what's going on? And I used to kind of put 1 and 2, Act 1 and Act 2 together because, like, oh well, this happens right afterwards. And like, well, there's a lot that can happen before the thieves ever even pop out, which I never really thought of. But when I ran it, I was like, oh yeah, spent a lot of time trying to figure something out. So.
It does kind of depend on the group, I think, but for the most part, like I find Act 1 to be the fastest act. Like it should be the one where you ask those initial questions, and I think we can kind of jump in, and we'll jump in as we go, I guess. Because this is like your main section of like what you read, but then like this is really what sets up like what are your players actually doing. This like as your steed pulls the carriage. And I always like find this. There's one part here. It's like one of the wheels coming off the ground just for a moment. I always find that to be the thing that I want to see why this merchant like fell. Um, so when I'm like running it here, I'll basically like if someone wants to make like a sense check or try to figure out how it turned over, I'll oftentimes like said, hey, it doesn't like when you go back, you see that like the place where the wheel came off the ground, it was kind of dug into. So it was like intended for it to be kind of thrown off, which from
Mm-hmm.
there, you're usually going to get players who don't get ambushed. Like the
Mm-hmm.
players who are kind of thinking about like, oh, why did this thing get like turned over? You're going to get the people who don't get ambushed versus the players who are just like, yeah, I'm just going to walk up with the cart. I'm just going to see what the
Mm-hmm.
Strixwolf's doing. Because the Strixwolf is really a distraction. You
Mm-hmm.
should not fight the Strixwolf. 9 out of 10 times you should not fight the Strixwolf. The Strixwolf should run away because she has cubs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's just mean.
Yeah. Don't kill the mom. I mean, I guess you can, but it's not Beast Feast where you want to eat everything. So
Yeah.
restrain yourself.
How was your first session running here, and like how do you feel like you spent in terms of time here?
So I feel like maybe like probably like 20 minutes
Okay.
before the thieves even appeared.
Really? I
Um,
can just
mm-hmm. They took a lot of time to see the cart. They saw the Strix Wolf, and they were kind of figuring out how to approach and what's really what to do, like what's going on, why is this cart off the road. But they didn't. Yeah, none of them were just like, oh, I'm gonna go check it out. It was very much so, hey, I'm gonna go get high ground or do something and like try to see what we can from afar and then move in slowly with it.
yeah.
Um,
I always say, and this is I always do this for so I learned over time after running it for 30 times um, that when they turn the corner, you immediately introduce the phrase ranges. So you turn the corner and you see a cart within close range um,
mm,
of you, so that way they know they're close. Like the cart just stumbled. Like you're not. It's not far away. Like you're about to meet the cart. Like it's only a little bit of a distance. But then it also gives you an opportunity to start teaching them. Like there's a couple ranges: melee, very close, close, far, and then very far. And like you start to explain those kinds of
mm,
mechanics. And then from there, they're like, okay, the action means I need to get address this. The Strixwolf is within a running distance of attacking me. Oh, hey, first question in the chat when you get a chance, Daniel. Since it's addressed to me, after running it 30 plus times, how long does the whole thing take on average? A nice breakdown between character creation, rules, and actual acts. For me, I'm a teacher, so that's the first thing. Like my day job is I teach, and I work in our IT department at the school I teach at. Um, so I take some time teaching, and I do this specifically because the one thing is, when they finish the game, this is kind of just the first time they're learning about Daggerheart. So I want them to know the game, and even if we get to like the end of a 4 hour session where we don't quite finish, I do have like a way that I go about like what happens if we reach almost 4 hours and the
mm,
players are just role playing like crazy. Um, then um, then I have something at the end which I'll talk about when we get to Act 5, but on average, it does take 3 to 4 hours.
yeah.
And the first hour is just teaching and connection questions. So it's for me, I do like my safety tools, all that stuff, like who I am. I have the players introduce themselves so that way we're not all strangers. Eventually, they talk about the characters they picked or the characters that they made. We do connection questions, all that. And then I talk about like, hey, how do you read your character sheet? So here's what we call duality die. Here's what traits are. Here's how what you use hope and how you use hope, or what you use hope for. And I basically just like do a quick skim as best as I can, and then as I finish, like I'll ask if somebody has questions after I finish talking about armor, threshold, evasion.
Mm,
Then I'll have, hey, do you have any questions after I talk about hope? Because those I think are the two places that people can get a little bit lost.
mm,
Some people just get and understand, but sometimes like you'll have that one player that's like, oh, just trying to figure it out. I think the easiest is teaching players who've never played a tabletop RPG versus teaching players who have
yeah.
played a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, I
When they
agree.
have played a tabletop RPG, there's like all sorts of like bias or like natural understanding that you're like trying to say, oh, that's similar to this. Like, yes, but Daggerheart is kind of its own thing.
Mm,
Um, but if you played Blades in the Dark or systems like it, I think those players also do a really good job at like really grasping the mechanics really quickly. I think Pathfinder players, I think, typically have the hardest time in my experience. So
yeah, it's definitely not a crunchy game. So all the numbers and all that kind of, even coming from D&D, it's like, oh well, this is my AC and I have to take 13 hit points. Like, well, no, you took 13 damage, but that's only 2 hit points. So that's a weird. It's just yeah. It can take a second for people to kind of grasp that concept, but
yeah, for sure. I think that's basically it in Act 2. I'll say one other thing just because I'm here. The Strix Wolf is almost almost always going to run. So whether the players like befriend the Strix Wolf, like bring it food, it'll take the food run. Its main priority is protecting its kids. Like it's not going to attack if it can. Like it's going to only attack if you attack its kids. Which then from there might be some problems with your party. Why? Why are you attacking these cubs?
yeah,
What? Anyways.
But yeah, yeah, Act 2.
This one. Yeah.
This is where if your party's, it's going to investigate the cart. Have you ever had a party just go around the cart and just ignore it?
No. So I never let my parties go around the cart. The reason why they can't. There's a reason. These are called the sunken paths. Like if we go back up to it's renowned for two things: that sunken pathways that provide trade routes for traveling merchants and unique hybrid animals. Sunken paths are like 3 feet deep into the ground. You cannot take your cart and take it over. You have to go through the trail. Like these are marked trails that have been here for like thousands and thousands of years. These are ancient trees that touch all the way up to the sky. Like these, they cannot go around it. And I explain that every single time. One, they have to deal with the cart. That's part of the story. Yeah. Unless they can literally lift it. And if they do, all right, bye, thicket thieves. We move on. We go straight to Hush.
Yeah. I missed that, the sunken pass when I ran it. And I mean, they still investigated it, obviously, but I was just like, yeah, you guys can just go around it. That's fine. And I missed that part. But.
And from here, though, I have shifted from when I used to be a very easygoing GM. Like on this, and like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna ambush these players. Like that's just mean for their first time. But if you don't ambush your players, they don't get the Daggerheart experience. And the way I ambush my players is I always start by saying, I'm going to spend a fear. As you see, blah, 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 blah. One, Kari, if you have a guardian in your party, is going to destroy you. Level 1 guardians, against the amount of damage that they're able to do, or about the amount of damage that these thistlefolk creatures are about to do, they don't do any damage. Next to nothing when you have a Kari in the party. When you have a guardian in the party, they do next to nothing, unless you can do the ambush maneuver. It just is so difficult, and almost everyone has like some sort of tanky character. And even if they don't have a Kari, they're not. I have never downed a player in this encounter. It's a very introductory encounter, and I've had more players like scold the thistlefolk ambushers and say, it's like, how dare you do this? Like you need to turn to a life of goodery, or nice. I know in our home game that happened twice when I ran it.
When I ran it, the same thing happened.
Yeah. There's another, like, I'll even have, like, if it's going really well for the party, they're gonna run. Like, these ambushers are, like, hit and run. They're losing. They take off as fast as possible. So, like, this one is supposed to be meant for, like, quick, make sure everybody takes a turn at least, and then, like, end the encounter, let's go. Spend that fear initially, ambush your players, because I find that once you realize, like, oh, I'm going to spend a fear, it tells them you should spend a hope. And naturally, that's what happens over, like, my first 15 games ran less well than my last 15 games. Because once you, like, get into the mindset of, like, I'm going to spend a fear here, and, like, you show your players that spending fear and spending hope should be pretty frequent, because you can get it back so easily, at least the players with hope that you can get it back so easily. Like, start off, spend that fear, ambush them.
No.
Unless, obviously, they do a really good job with, like, instinct checks, and, like, scout around, and they see the thing in the forest, which happens often.
It happens. Someone's always playing a ranger with high instinct, so
Yeah, Varian almost always spots it
mhm.
if there is a Varian in the party. So, um, yeah. I also have like a map that I use. It's pretty dynamic. Like this, what's it called? The Thistlefolk leader. I always put like at the top, um, and I almost like always like spend fear to like make the agility check to run in, from far range, and then just like do the whole back off maneuver to like send everybody out,
Mhm.
and disperse. Like I this is by far my favorite. Like the Thistlefolk thief, for the leader versus the ambushers, because he makes the game like really dynamic and like really shows like,
Mhm.
oh, let's jump into combat. But I will also say you do have to like, this is a part that you spend a good amount of time because you're teaching them like, hey, here's how no initiative works, here's how movement and ranges
Yeah.
works, and so expect this to take a bit of time. What about you? Any other things that you were thinking of in this?
No, I definitely agree. It's yeah, the no initiative combat definitely can take some getting used to for some players, but you know, because people are just like, you can just go whenever you want. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, you can go whenever you want, but also remember that means the GM can go whenever they want.
Yeah, every time you spend, I had one game, one learn to play group that rolled, and we looked back at the like the dummy plane like numbers, because this was like the first group, after Daggerheart launched. I think it was an 80% rolled with fear for that group. It
Dang.
was it was like,
Yeah.
it wasn't brutal, because this, I don't think this is meant to like destroy your players. This is
Yeah.
supposed to like introduce you to the game, but they were probably the closest I was to TPKing a party.
That's better than the group I had that had 20 crits on a one
Ooh,
shot. It's
ew,
fine.
yikes.
That's
Yeah,
another
my
another time.
highest is 8.
No, we
My
counted it
highest
up.
is 8 in a session.
It was literally 15 on roll 20. It's fine. That's a different story. But yeah. Yeah, this
um,
encounter is really to introduce Daggerheart combat and how it differs
and
from other TTRPGs.
and I will say, pacing wise, this should take you at most 30 minutes.
Yeah.
At most. Like I would say 20 is what you're kind of aiming for, as a GM. Because like once they get to a point where everybody's got taken their turn at least once, because most of the time players are kind of chomping at the bit where they want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
The only time, and even with like random players, a lot of the times I always start with who's getting ambushed. Like if one of the Thistlefolk ambushers makes an attack roll, you put the spotlight there. You ask him, "What do you want to do?" It's like, "How do you retaliate?" Like you see this frog, this ribbit jump out from the tree and slash you with a dagger. How do you retaliate? That's the
Mm-hmm.
immediate like that person should go.
Mm-hmm.
I could like spotlight other players, but the spotlight's already at a specific spot, so why not keep it there? And then after that resolves, then if there's someone closer, it's like, I might even or put in another ambusher, because not, you don't have to reveal all your ambushers at the same time. You
Mm-hmm.
can ambush one ambusher at a time. um and so you might still have one hiding. I've changed this dagger to a bow, before, so it's like I've
Mm-hmm.
had one be a ranged like, combatant that the players have to go chase after, or another ranged individual has to take care of them. Um, and then after I see what's happening in the front line, I'll then turn to like, but the other two standing in the back of the cart, what have you been up to this time? Like, how have you been prepping? Like, the thing about like Daggerheart, when you're narrating the game, you don't narrate it to where you say, um, it's like, what are you take care of the guardian in the front line, then you look at the bard. It's like, what's the bard doing? You have to kind of say, what has the bard been doing?
Yeah.
Like, the bard has not just been standing there. The bard has been doing something, and we're just now turning over, like they're turning the camera over to them and seeing what they've been doing while the fight has started. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like these players are not idle, and I think that's the hardest, the part that you have to break that mindset from other tabletop RPGs with an
Yeah.
initiative system, because I think a lot of the times you can get caught with implementing your own initiative, but when you start to narrate as a GM and showcase that something is always happening, you don't ever have to worry about who's going next. Like someone wants to do something. And sometimes there's a player that's quiet because they're waiting for the GM to stop or use all their fear. Those are my favorite players, by the way. The players that like realize that the GM is the weakest when they have no fear. That like, and they'll push conditions. Like they're just gonna, I'm gonna restrain. I'm gonna make them vulnerable. The GM's like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
clear this. I'm gonna clear this. It's like, oh, I'm out of fear. Um,
Gotcha.
and then
Now.
there's like, now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take this action, then this action, and then now you're screwed. Um, those are my favorite players because that does outsmart me because it breaks the normal, from what I'm used to. So, cool. Um, I think that's everything. Yeah. So let's talk about
Yeah.
after the fight. So what happens after the fight for you? Like, did you feel pretty good about transitioning?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what happened. And I don't know if this is in the sheet or if this is just something that you did that I remember that I used. But I used whatever supplies were left in the cart that they were going to Hush. Like they find like a ledger or there's a um something on the crates inside the broken down cart that says going to the name of the tavern. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but
The Clover Tavern.
yeah, the Clover Tavern. So it kind of gives them another incentive to
Go to Hush.
go to Hush.
Yeah.
So I think that I think the players see that and like, okay, well, yeah, now we for sure need to get there because now we have this. So
So my default is the ledger. My default is like you find a crate of a handful of fruit that hasn't been picked off yet. So end up giving that to the players. And then as you look through the merchant's things, you find that there's a ledger. And then the destination was the Clover Tavern. I think that's my default, but if we're good on time, I'll literally ask my players. You start looking through the merchant's things. What do you find? And then
mm,
from there, I just tie it into like maybe there's an NPC. Like, I had one there. This isn't something that I've done, but I want to do at some point. Someone said like, "Oh, I find a ring on the merchant." It's like, "Oh, awesome." Um, and then it's like and then from there, like someone on another Discord, with actually the GMs that are GMing with Darrington Press this upcoming Gen Con, someone said that they've had a ring that was signed to the merchant's lover. So the merchant was from Hush.
mm,
And so I think another one that I've used was they find a name tag. So I gave like the person his name, and then they end up going into town looking for the person with the name, which then leads me to like what happens in the town. But
yeah,
you can kind of take like even ask your players in the spirit of Daggerheart, what do you find, and then kind of on the fly like tie that to one of the NPCs in Hush.
mm,
So, but yeah.
yeah,
I used to hear though. I used to say like, um, I used to like ask, "Hey, how do you clear this cart?" I just say that after this fight, you clear the cart. Like you
yeah,
take the broken pieces and you move it to the side, because I don't want to spend too much time role playing
yeah. That's not the
after
part of
the
the
fight.
narrative that's fun, in my opinion. Like making up
It can
stuff
be.
and
Wait, you said it isn't fun or it is fun?
like I feel like that's not the part that I would want to focus on. Like, oh, you got the crate, and if you have them do the searching through people, you like, what do you find? You can make up these certain items, and it's like, well, after I've done all that, well, then yeah, now it's just easy enough to move the cart out the way, you know?
Daggerheart goes under the assumption that your characters are know how to search a body. Like
Mm-hmm.
the only time I ever impose a roll is if there's something on the body that is hidden. Like if you're just going through someone's pockets, I could go through someone's pockets, and
Yeah.
I'm not an adventurer. Like I just tell them like what they find. But if there's like, oh, like you see tucked into like a piece, um or like you see tucked into his clothing, you see a locket or something like that. Like that's cool, but the
Mm-hmm.
worst part is if they make a search roll and then they get like a 3 with fear. It's like you don't know how to search. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that like don't put rolls in Daggerheart for things that you don't want your players to fail at.
Yeah.
And expect them to be competent. But yeah.
Mm.
Um, so Seeking the Arcanist is Act 3. This is where they arrive to Hush. Um, I take a lot of liberties here, and I spend a lot of time here because this is my favorite part. Because I love role playing, and
Mhm.
Hush is prime for role playing. Um, I'm curious to hear how your side went when you came to Hush.
Yeah. So when I did it, we kind of breezed through actually getting into Hush and went straight to the tavern. Um, I introduced, like, like would introduce, like, hey, there's this is going on here, this is going on there, and then you see the giant tavern in the tree in the middle of the town, and they were just like, oh, okay, cool, let's go to the tavern. Okay, that's fair. I know
Yeah,
there's been times where I spent a lot of time before you even get to the tavern. Um,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I would say most parties do that. I would say 60 to 70% of parties just go straight to the tavern, and that's
mhm,
perfectly fine. I like to embellish things, like, by every time I go in, it's not just a few smiling faces. I
mhm.
always go with, like, you see a school, there's a kid, the kid says hi, then you look
Yeah,
around and now there's 3 kids, then you keep looking around and now there's 15. You don't know how the
yeah,
15 got there, but they're all excited that you're here. Like, I
mhm,
like making the town, like, especially with how, if you continue to, like, read a lot about what, like, Hush is about, like, this place loves visitors. And so the whole town, I want to have the atmosphere of, like, everyone loving, everyone really excited for people to come in.
mhm.
That being said, I did have one place like, oh, this place is too happy. This place is too happy. Like there has to be something wrong. Like there's a warlock
Right.
somewhere here that's, like,
Yeah.
that's messing.
What
And then I was
what
like, oh
curse
my
is on
gosh,
this
what
town?
just happened? Like where are they going with this?
Is the
And I had to
Whitefire
try, like,
Arcanist
extra
really?
hard to, like, convince them that this was an okay town. I could have
Mhm.
went the other way and made this town evil, but I was like, I
Yeah,
don't want to do that.
yeah.
And I also didn't have the foresight to, like, really think through that, like, line of improv. I kind of
Mhm.
just defaulted to what I knew, because that was already such an outlandish
Yeah,
group. Like, the highly skeptical group was hilarious.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Whitefire. They go to the Clover Tavern.
yeah.
Um,
So
how does Clover Tavern?
when I
This is my favorite.
so when I had my characters go to the tavern, one, I forgot the shoe thing. So, and sorry, I always think that's a fun thing to do, but I forgot
I
about that.
like the shoot thing, but I forget the shoot thing sometimes.
But when I had them walk in, I did the Daggerheart thing and be like, hey, you guys walk in, you see this, you see the tavern. It's many stories high. It's multiple different floors. What do you see on the first floor? It's somehow I can't remember exactly what happened. It somehow became a funeral, or it was like a after a funeral. Um, I think because someone said that everyone was wearing these bracelets. Everyone had like the same bracelet on, and someone said, "Oh, and you're like they." I guess maybe I made it up because I think they asked about it and says this is we always wear this when we're mourning or something like that. I wish I could remember exactly how we got to this point, but basically I turned it into a this town takes death as a not the end but a new beginning. So it was like a big celebration on the first floor. I I don't even know how I got there.
That's so interesting. I've never
Yeah,
had funeral. I've never had Clover Tavern funeral.
Clover Tavern funeral. It was
Oh, that's so
well,
great.
I think actually what kind of I guess maybe I think I had a little bit to do with it because um like we have people's funerals, like especially like people in the fire department who either are retired and and then they have their funeral. That's kind of what it becomes. It's everyone comes together. Obviously you mourn what's going on, but it's like all of your old friends from people that you haven't seen in years. You all come together, and then it becomes like having fun, telling stories about the good times you had with this guy, right? So, um,
That's
yeah.
that's interesting. One person did have a question about what is the shoe thing. The shoe thing is, normally when you enter into the Clover Tavern, one of the weird, like, quirks is that everyone hangs their shoes on a clothesline. So that way, and it's like newcomers at the to the bar must take their shoes up and hang them on the line that stretches across the bar's floor. I always make it before they walk in because I always introduce Fidget, this young
Hmm.
child, like, as the person who like greets them at the door. And so I usually leave it outside, but also Asian household, you leave your shoes out the
Yeah.
door. You don't bring your shoes into a building. So that's how like my brain always works for it, and so I always remember. Um, so for me, like that's just like the natural trigger.
Mm.
But you basically put the shoes on the clothesline, and then they fill your shoes with trinkets. Like they shine and clean your shoes with trinkets. Everyone's always skeptical. Like everyone's like, "Why do you want my
Yeah.
shoes?" It's like, well, it's part of it. It's funny, and you're gonna get a fun trinket afterwards. But there are some people who's like, "I'm not taking my shoes off." Which that, as a once again Asian household, how dare you take your
Hmm.
shoes off when you walk into a
Yeah.
building? Um, I even don't like shoes at work. Like I sit at my desk with no. That's a completely other side note. Um,
Gross.
my feet are clean. I do not. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, but the ground's
Um,
not though.
well, I'm sitting at my. It's fine. We're gonna. I'm not. I don't want to get into this. I don't want to
That's
get
what I'm
into
saying.
this.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so Lusa,
Lusa. It's
Lusa's
always a
so great.
so fun. She's one of the
90%
best
of the
NPCs.
time, older woman, auburn beard, uh, Irish accent, 90% of the time. But I have
Mhm.
had Russian Lusa, I've had Victorian Lusa, and I've
Oh.
had Old English like King Arthur Lusa. So I've done a couple Lusas,
Yeah.
solely dependent on how the players describe it.
Yeah.
Which leads, I think, to the one of the big things. There are these questions right here, that asks the players, and I usually like pinpoint specific players. Like if I haven't heard from
Mm.
somebody, if someone's like not a super big RPer, I usually just ask them like, "What do you see? Like, what unique
Mhm.
customs do they participate in? What smell permeates throughout the air? How does the second floor of the tavern look so oddly?" Did you use all these questions, or did you use like other questions?
I kind of used my own question. I think I kind of did the yes and of it. So I think I had them all roll with duality, or I think I may have just picked someone and be like, okay, what do you notice about this? Um, I can't. It's been a while now since I ran it, so I can't really remember exactly what they said on this. Maybe I got it confused. I think I actually did this part for the first floor. I think the second floor I just kind of described as a normal tavern
Yeah.
with the floating chairs, and I described Lusa.
Yeah. So I always
Is it
go with
actually? Hold on. First, is it Lusa or is it Lausa? I'm pretty sure I called her Lausa the whole time.
I call her Lusa personally because I have
Oh,
always called her Lusa, but
yeah.
it does look like Lausa. But that's also because I can't read. I'm really bad with vowels and letters whenever I'm reading anything in general.
Yeah. Sorry,
Um,
not important, but yeah.
I always go with like whoever goes in first. I always ask like who walks in first, and then
Hmm.
from there I'll ask the first question. It might be this: how does the second floor differ? My go-to first question is, you look up at the above the bar after I give like an initial breakdown. Like you look up at the bar and you see a mural that depicts the town's history. What does this mural
Mm.
depict? And like they'll ask, like if there's a giant in the group, like if Kari's in the group, one of the questions that I always ask is when they're walking through, it's like, you notice that there's a group of people that are gathered around an area looking at the center that seems to be a little more clear. But you can see into that center. What are they doing? Like a lot of times people will say like they're gambling.
Mhm.
One person said they're people who are fighting. It's like there's a pit fight in the middle of
Yeah,
the tavern. It's like there wasn't, but there is now.
there is now.
Um, and then the question that I always have to ask is I ask any of the players, typically the last person to go, I'll ask like one person catches your eye that's just sitting off by themselves. Who is it? I always ask that question because I find that there is often not a immediate like, oh, you need to go see the Whitefire Arcanist. And so no matter like how they describe it, they could describe the person as like they look mechanical in their clank, like they look like an elf. They're just hooded. Like they can describe it
Mm.
however they want, but I'm going to tie that who is this person back to a relationship with the Whitefire Arcanist,
Mm.
some way, shape, or form. Whether it's someone who in our home game, I asked that question, and someone ordered like mite muffins, which was a set of muffins that were made of mites that I just thought were a really good like vehicle, um, because the Whitefire Arcanist, as we will see later on, is a fairy. So I'm like, she must like muffins of some kind. Oh, what if we put mites in them, like live mites? And so like sometimes it's like if that's an insectoid, I'll like have the mite muffins show up, and then it'll be like someone ordered the last bits. They eventually like learn that the Whitefire Arcanist hasn't shown up or hasn't been down here in some time. She lives on the outskirts, which we'll see in a little bit. Um, and I always tie those like muffins, and that's I think my normal default. But I had this like the most recent one. I had this individual like get stood up by the Whitefire Arcanist. Like they look like someone described them as like they're shy. They seem to be looking for someone, um, but they're just a little nervous. And I was like, okay, interesting. And as the conversation just kept going, I was like, oh, this guy was stood up. And then one of my players was, and I was just gonna have this guy, like, oh, I was just stood up. Like he was just gonna buy the I think it was like mite pie this time is what I used. Like he was just gonna bring the mite pie to the person because he wanted to like continue like having a relationship. But as the conversation, someone was like, oh, did he get stood up by the Whitefire Arcanist? Like that sounds so great. He sure did. And so like this individual got stood up by the Whitefire Arcanist. And then the players like confronted her like when they met her later. It's like, did you know that you stood up someone? And like the story was like she made the date like 3 months ago and like gave him an arbitrary date. And then it's like, oh, I should. It's like, but then the players like confronted her, but then also said it's like, well, I think the character's name was like Histy, like was the name of the NPC. It's like, oh, but Histy got you this pie, and so they delivered the pie for. And it's like, and so from there they decided that the Whitefire Arcanist and Histy needed to hook up.
Wow.
And they were playing Matchmaker. That's a whole different story, like of my most recent one. But I found the Clover Tavern to just be like a really great place.
Yeah.
And I think
so much can happen there.
I think when you're talking to Lusa, you have to say Lusa like has a relationship with the Whitefire Arcanist because she knows everyone. And specifically when she has a relationship with the Whitefire Arcanist, that she has something that she can give the party to bring to the Whitefire Arcanist. And that vehicle could be anything. It could be, hey, I'm actually been meaning to send this to the Whitefire Arcanist. You don't have to have a social encounter. Or with a random NPC. You can just have her, hey, I wanted to give these mite muffins to the Whitefire Arcanist. Like you can do what you need to do. But I find she's the best vehicle.
Sorry, give me 1 sec.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's me. It's solo me. Yeah, AJ is taking a phone call. So we're gonna keep moving, trudging along. If you have a question in the comments, I'm looking over here because that's where my chat screen is. Let me know. I'll answer it. I'll keep going, but I want to know if you have any questions about Sablewood Messengers. So there's this optional First Moss Festival. I have never run it. I would run it if I had like a 2-shot that I was running, but if I'm running a 1-shot, I would not run this. You are strapped for time. You are gonna get hit right at that 4-hour mark. I just would not run this optional First Moss Festival. It sounds like fun. I'd totally do it. Like, it's new crops. Like, it's a larger social event. You can spend more time in Act 3. But for me personally, this 1-shot is already packed with like plenty of stuff. Plus, I always want to get to the end. I don't always get to the end, but I do want to get to the end for combat. But sometimes like the players just want to talk to Lusa or talk to Fidget. I almost never introduce Halathon vibes because there's never time to. I want to introduce Halathon 5, but there's just so many other NPCs in this group that Halathon doesn't end up being. I've only introduced Halathon maybe like 3 times out of my 30. So
yeah, my tavern was kind of chaotic. I kind of figured that Lusa is pretty much just an older dwarf woman, and I'm sure she's a bartender, so I'm sure she gets hit on all the time. One of my players tried to flirt with her, so we flirted a little bit. Then he rolls a crit.
Nice.
He rolls a crit to flirt, and I'm just like, well, I'm not gonna romance you. This isn't gonna how this is gonna work. So he kind of like they get a free room. They actually spent the night. My group did.
Oh, you had a full rest there?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. So actually, hold on. I got to back up a second. So they had a arm wrestling tournament.
Okay, I've had that too. I've had an arm wrestling tournament.
Had an arm wrestling tournament. They won. They ended up getting free drinks all night, so they stayed up and partied all night. So I had then someone critted to seduce Lausa or Lusa, and I didn't obviously didn't make a romance, but it was just like a hey, whatever you guys need, blah blah blah. But with that, the character, the hidden figure character, I then made him to basically be someone who had a crush on Lusa. And there's a big conflict
about this.
There's a big conflict between them and the party because he was all upset. And then the party gave him tips on how to get her attention better. I say all that to say the tavern, put your improv shoes on because anything can really happen.
Yeah, I definitely want to run this adventure like with people, like with like people who are new to the game, but also like I want to run this like with like a very heavy RP group and just see this like and then like fully like put it out there. So I might like invite people at some point to like do a full session of like this, even if you know what's going on. Every time it's different. Anyways, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving because we're almost at like our time.
Yeah,
technically.
we still got. I would say the treehouse is where I spend the least amount of time, anyways. Generally.
Yeah, I think the treehouse is pretty easy to kind of go through, unless they have a lot of questions for Whitefire Arcanist. But before that, there is one question, real question. Well, one fake question, by Zane, who's a player in one of my games on Saturday mornings. Will he get knocked into the Hush Tavern by the magical chaos by the dragon? The answer is we'll see on Saturday, or in the week on Saturday. And the real question is, how would you rate this adventure on a scale of 1 to 10? This adventure for me, with modifications, 10. Easy 10. Without modifications, it's like an 8.9. But the thing is, like, there's no, like, I have no, like, I don't have any one-shots that are solid without modifications.
Yeah.
Every one-shot I have that I run always has some form of modifications. That being said, Shadow Dark's another one where I've read through the story. I love that story. That's great for modifications. I think Curse of Strahd, the House of Dark, or not House of Darkness. What the heck is it called? The Murder House. That's one that I think is a really fun adventure, but you do have to specify your players because of D&D system that it is a death house. But anyways, with modifications is a 10. Like by far my favorite module to run, which is why I've run it 30 times. Like I don't run it 30 times because they tell me to. It's because I actually think this is fun. Treehouse, though, you get to meet the Whitefire Arcanist. You get to learn about why, what's it called? Why they were sent here. You learn that the crystal needs to be recharged, and you learn that you need to go to the open veil. I always set my time up where. So this is how I pace my like in the game story, like time wise. The ambush happens in the morning. You arrive at Hush at noon. You meet the Whitefire Arcanist in the afternoon. You go to the Veil at night. That's how I pace it. The session itself, and this is also because I don't want them to have a long rest. I don't think they need to. The game will eventually get you to a point where you do take a short rest in part 5. But for the most part, in 3, you're kind of just introducing yourself to the Whitefire Arcanist. She's going to ask you this last thing. It's like, I need your help to go to the open veil so that way they can revitalize the ward. And that's basically like where you're at. I have had games where I get here and I'm basically like, we've been going for 4 hours now. We're going to call it here. And which is where I'll go. We'll go through Act 5, I think. And then we'll talk about like what to do if you don't reach Act 5 in a one shot frame. But anything that you have of note for Act 4?
No. I'll actually say I think sometimes the trying to get that Whitefire Arcanist's attention is kind of in my opinion, needs some modifications.
That's my first modification.
Yeah,
Here,
and I'm just
or
like,
not my
it
first,
feels,
but
yeah, it just feels like why, it feels a little weird. When I ran it, it kind of felt like they were forced, and if they end up failing, I'm like, well, it just feels like it could be a little bit weird if you don't succeed or have the right sort of
sure.
ideas. Um, but I think aside
I
from
will.
that,
Go ahead.
so I think aside from that, it's pretty straightforward. I played the Whitefire Arcanist as basically like a crackhead, because um there's a
Yeah, her
description in
movements are
there.
very slow and subtly jerky.
Yeah, and you're really jerky, so and I just it just kind of happened that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will say, like, whenever I'm running this and I notice that we're like, oh, we might be getting a little on time, I will literally tell my players, like, I'm gonna cut one section out of here, and I'll tell you what I'm cutting, just because I don't want us to have to like spend a lot of time rolling. And I'll tell them like, right, what's happening next is you're going to gather together, and you're gonna try to figure out how to get the Whitefire Arcanist's attention. I'm just gonna skip us a little bit to where you already gather her attention, and now you're gonna meet her. And I just tell them that out flat because once again, like I want to make sure that they get to that end fight, and so I'll just tell them like, look, we're just gonna skip a small section. It's not gonna be a lot. At best, you're gonna be rolling a couple times, and and then we continue moving on. But just to cut saves like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, but does matter when it comes to the time frame. Another question in the chat before we move on to the last act. What formats have you run this in? Is it always a table online, or have you tried it at a convention or something? Ooh. Okay, so AJ and I both, it's mostly online.
Yeah.
I run games. I'll learn to play once a month. Um, I run this exact game. Other than that, I also run games. So if you're interested in playing in a game with me or AJ, AJ runs games as well.
Yeah.
Our Discord's linked. Let me see. Did I have it saved still? Nope. What in the world is this?
To the very top of the chat, but yeah.
It's at the very top. Let me just copy paste here.
Yeah.
But yeah, hop in our Discord. Well, we have games that are always being run. And then
Daniel's
I
going to be
also
running it. Yeah.
I'm running it for Darrington Press at Gen Con.
Yeah. So he's gonna run it so many times at a conference.
Yeah.
Or
So if you're going to Gen Con, you can't sign up because they're all booked. But if you have generic tickets, you might be able to like hop in on a spot when somebody like drops out. But yeah. Okay. Let's see. What are we doing here?
Next
Act 5. Yeah.
Act 5.
Last act. You travel to the open vale. And this is the first part where we teach the players a short rest mechanic. From here, like you go to this like large central area, you begin kind of like beginning to set up, and from here you have an hour to prepare. So from here you take a short rest, tend to wounds, clear stress, repair armor, prepare. This is just the short rest mechanics. Kind of go over it. Gives you some information about like what you need to do. So you take 1d4, you roll it, and you get that as your fear, and then you get to like start fighting. I think from here we just talk battle tactics.
Yeah.
So, fight starts. Keystone erupts. Immediately, I tell them like there's going to be an environment known as the open veil. Especially if I'm teaching it, there's going to be some extra things that are not either the NPC or the adversaries that you're fighting, but it's actually going to be the world that is going to cause things to happen. And so I might use Vengeance the Veil at the very beginning and summon extra skeletons if the party has shown a little bit of prowess. But how did your session go before I kind of say what I've done and what I've changed in the past?
So I did use this. I did summon additional skeletons right at the beginning. But my party took a lot of time to prep. We had a wizard that cast basically like the darkness spell over the Whitefire Arcanist as she's doing this to basically kind of hide her and give disadvantage on anyone trying to stop her. So I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. She never got hit once, so it was just kind of some good thinking on that. And I think I actually feel like I struggled with this one a little bit, using my fear and the different abilities to their full potential. I think it went well. I think it still went really well and all that, but I think I was kind of like, oh, do I just keep spawning skeletons or blah blah blah? So
Yeah.
man, I'd love to hear from you.
So first, every GM move is always the Forest Wraith. Don't ever like, and this obviously like do this with train of thought, but you are trying, and I'll say this like now, it's like you are trying to kill your players. Like I think it's fun when you experience death move because then they get to see new mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if they die, like they get to see a new mechanic, and if they take like um uh what's it called? Not splash, not risk it all. Uh, it's the one where you use
Blade
auto
of the
crit.
Glory.
Blaze of Glory. Like if you take Blaze of Glory, like that's just so fun. I've only done it once, but it was the most fun that the player said they
Mm.
had. That being said, um, every time they roll with fear, every time they fail a roll, I always activate the Forest Wraith. I
Mm.
might spend a fear to then extend my turn to use the skeletons, but the skeletons are kind of just there as fodder to an
Mm.
extent. And the only time I really use it is to use the group attack. Because, and the reason I like group attack, and the only reason I do group attack, is because I want the players to know all the skeletons are gonna I'm very much narrate. It's like the skeletons start to work together as they
Mm.
begin to kind of focus fire and they start making attack rolls. Um, I do group attack so that way hopefully it intends to say like maybe you should try a tag team attack.
Mm.
Um, and so I use it specifically that way because most of the time, by the time I've gotten to this point, I'm probably getting close to 12 fear. Like
Yeah.
I'm not usually spending fear in the social encounters. I'm spending my fear all here. So that way they know like I'm gonna be spending fear. But also I keep the focus on the forest wraiths because I feel like the forest wraith narratively are the ones who are kind of controlling the skeletons. Like every
Mm-hmm.
time a skeleton dies, I say that the forest wraiths like immediately turn their attention to the person that kills the skeleton. Um, and I do mechanically, I do hit the pass through as soon as I can on the Guardian
Hmm.
because I don't want that thing messing with me. And also, it makes the players realize like if the Guardian did a really good job at the very beginning, it helps the players realize, oh, I need to get my friend free. I need to kill something. And they just like destroy a skeleton and then it severs the pass through. Memory
Mm.
delve is fun for like role play. So like that's my default if I don't want to spend a fear. Um, but I almost always like use the two forest wraiths here in this
Yeah.
encounter.
Yeah. I think this, like, as the new GM in this group, this is where I had a hard time getting trying to break my D&D brain. Um, because I was like, man, I have 12 fear. Do I just keep spending fear and activate each of these skeletons once, and then the wraith, and then or the group attack, and then I don't even know if this is a rule. I did it on myself, but if I missed an attack, then it went back to the players. I know that's how it is as a player. I don't know if that's a GM thing though.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think if I ever miss, I usually pass it back to the players. But I also will like I will use my fear pretty often to extend it to make more than one thing move.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have it, like I want to take like if I'm gonna activate one forest wraith and I have the fear for it, I'm gonna spend another fear to activate the other forest wraith.
No.
Because I can't just keep activating the same one over and over again because none of these individuals have relentless, which
No.
is a feature that adversaries have. But yeah, I think those are my main things. Like really like focus on the wraiths being the big bad because
Mm-hmm.
here's my thing as a player, and I know this is me. I know not all players are this way, but I like it when there's that tension of like death is around the corner in
Yeah.
a fight, and I have had games where I've heard the comments from the players. Not that it's like wrong. It's just, but it feels a little bad. Where the player's like, "Yeah, it's like I only took 1 HP." It's like, well, that kind of feels a little bad for
I
me.
feel like I
Well,
didn't
like
do
I
my
didn't even
job
touch you.
correctly. Yeah.
I didn't do. It's like I didn't give you the skill or the level of challenge that I wanted to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I would say do that and don't be afraid of death moves because it just teaches players like, hey, this is something that's
Mm-hmm.
possible. But then also feel it out. Like one thing that I try is I always have my camera on whenever I'm playing with individuals, just so that way I can kind of like say, hey, it's okay to have your camera because then you can kind of really tell like when a
Yeah.
player
Kind
like
of gauge
feels
someone. Yeah.
like they don't like it. Like it's like, oh, okay, this makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You're not you're like this isn't the style of game that you want. Um, But then I also have the player who's like, oh no, it's like, and then you see them like freaking out, and then like, but they're having fun, like they're enjoying it, they're
Mm.
laughing, they're like trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. So, um, but yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
that's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I mean, does anybody have any questions? It's been a slower-ish chat, but this will be
Yeah.
back, and I know that there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna put stuff in the comments. But anybody have any questions about like
Mm.
Sablewood Messengers? Anything about it?
Yeah.
We'll kind of leave it up. AJ, how did you feel that the adventure is, um, and how do you feel like things that you want to take into the next game?
I think GMing, I think definitely using these abilities to their full potential more. Because I feel like I've played. I mean, I've played probably close to 100 sessions of Daggerheart at this point. Um, but GMing wise, I feel like I have to just really like use them. Don't be afraid. Like you were saying, like you don't have to be nice to your players. You want everyone to have a great time, but it doesn't mean you just like, oh, I'm just going to patch you. Like, hey, put the fear in them.
Yeah.
This is a combat experience, so I think that's something for me I need to work on. And just using my fear. I feel like I ended that game with like 6 fear left over, and I was like, how I should have just dumped it.
Yeah. Cool. There are a couple questions, so we're gonna definitely answer these questions. First one: have you ever run follow-up games with the same group and characters as a lead-up to the Martyrs of Windfall? AJ, we have. That's
I
actually our
have.
very first
I
campaign.
played in it.
Yeah, well, actually, two campaigns. One
Yeah.
campaign kind of fizzled, but it kind of was like, hey, let's do it. Then we lost a player and they died.
Yeah. They
Not
died.
real life, not the player. The player did not die. Their character died,
The
and then it
character.
kind of got really weird and like it felt kind of off.
Yeah.
And then schedules just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then we had like a full blown campaign from the Sablewood Messengers, and then jumped straight into like a good like what 6 session campaign.
Yeah. It was fun.
That
It
was
was a
a
lot of
really
fun.
good campaign. Like that was so much fun.
And that was early
Like
too. That was really early.
that was like the first game I ran on Start Playing
Mm.
as a GM
We had a lot
for
of new
Daggerheart.
people. It was that was a great I kind of
Yeah.
forgot about that. That was a great
Two
set. That was a
people
great
who'd
campaign.
never played before,
Yeah.
one person who was like playing for like years, but like it was just such a good story.
Mm.
Um, but yeah. And then as a lead up to Marauders, okay, here's how I feel about Marauders. Marauders of Windfall is a great adventure, kind of.
Kind
It's not the best adventure. I'm saying it's a great adventure, but it kind of isn't. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here. I'm just so it's
Mm.
the two of us. Um, my problem with Marauders of Windfall is the story doesn't make sense, and it also doesn't make sense as a follow up to Sablewood Messengers.
Mm.
You're in a skyship, so you're kind of learning a different like a different style. And I think Marauders of Windfall would have been a better game had it just not involved anything Sablewood related. I think you could have used the characters, and I think the reason I had to was because it needed the characters to be the same, and it also introduced like a bard, but it just the story was not great. In regards to like Marauders of Windfall, I think I said it was I said Sablewood's like an 8-9, which is still like my highest like one shot for a quick start. But Marauders would be like a 6-2. Like it's not a great story in my opinion.
Mm.
It's kind of confusing too. A lot of the players that like I've ran it with, like they're just like, what? How does this make sense? And even when I played, I was like, I don't really understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
Um,
How do we get
yeah.
here? Built a
And
little
then
force.
last question before we'll close off. What is your interest in new one shots, quick starts? I don't think Darrington is putting out another one soon, but what about homebrew ones? I mean, we've run a lot of one shots. I'll say
Yeah.
that. Like I have our community one shots full. So the
Mm.
Glutton Within is going to be a one shot where we're fighting steampunk ooze. We've done one shots. AJ's run a one shot in Colossus.
The
I have
Class of
too.
Drowns, yeah.
I've run a one shot in many one shots in Beast Feast. I love that system. I love that campaign frame. Um, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I haven't run any other quick start ones. Darrington Press is coming out with one more called The Dying Spire. Um, which is going to be showcased at Gen Con. We're going to get a little bit of information about it soon, I assume, because that's how we got a little bit of information before Gen Con about Marauders. But I'm interested to see what they come up with. My thing too about like other homebrew games is I've seen, and this is a critique on just like what I've seen on the Reddit. Everyone who's seen me on the Discord knows how I feel about the Reddit. I don't like the Daggerheart Reddit. I didn't like it through beta because the people who are like in charge of the Daggerheart Reddit did not adhere to like what Darrington Press like had said, like, hey, we want to kind of do this, we want to do these are the kind of the rules for sharing homebrew content and whatnot. And I just felt like they was very disrespectful from the administration side, and then also it was just a mess over at Reddit. But in regards to other people's homebrew, I've seen some of it. I think it's great, but it doesn't feel like Daggerheart. A lot of the one-shot homebrews that I've seen, it just feels like it just feels like D&D with Daggerheart kind of as its base. I'll also say like one thing about like, and so here's what I mean by that. Like we have these questions here, like memory delve, where we're in combat, but we're still like kind of going at their like their story, like we're learning about their childhood background. We go to the first portion where it's like you notice some things about the trees in the Sablewood. What is it? We have these questions where we're building a collaborative story. My issue with the current one-shots that I've seen is they don't have collaboration built into the game. So it makes it so that way, like if I want to play Daggerheart, which mind you, my play style is like 100% like let's collab. Like I ask my players like what they see all the time. Every single time I get a chance, like I'll ask them like to kind of just gauge what they have in their story. But man, like it's so difficult to say like Daggerheart one shots or like run other people's one shots because they don't feel like Daggerheart. They just feel like D&D with a Daggerheart rule set. Wanin, awesome. Wanin, also if anybody is still here, I think there's 7 people in the chat. Go and I'm gonna link this here. Hold on. Let me share my screen one more time. Hold on. Wanin, what is it? Art? Wanin art. Hold on. I'm gonna share it here in a second. I'm gonna share this stuff because Wanin in chat has posted. Oh, where's your stuff? Linktree. It's on your Linktree. Let's see if we can find it. Has made like Daggerheart assets. I'll share my screen. Maybe. Share. Donde? Where's the share button not working? Please work. Share screen. Share screen. Window. Wanin. Share. Okay, so Wanin has put up some free things. One, support your artist. It's not like he puts this up for free, but definitely like throw a couple bucks, like help like show them just how great this stuff is. But it's like art packs, like Daggerheart art packs. So like you have Lusa, Fidget, Halathon. You have like a map. You have this like tree of like what the Clover Tavern is. Let's see if I can find the other ones. Quickstart 2, which this came out after, and I've used this before. You have some of those like tokens. The Whitefire Arcanist, the kind of backdrop. I didn't really use this personally, but and then you have the open veil, and this is animated. It's an animated version too, so like it's so cool. And then hold on, I don't think I've looked at like everything. Oh, the Fire Moss Festival. I have not run this, so I don't think I've actually looked into it personally. But like I'm like all this stuff was just so cool. Like there's a whole bundle. Like if you choose to do the Fire Moss Festival, which once again. Me trying to fit all that content all at once, like it's just so hard to fit all that stuff. But definitely check him out. Like Wanin's like the stuff in the community. Like this is by far been like,
man.
The best like art, I think, and like they're all in a package. So if you're gonna run this online, definitely like use some of these assets. Also, and then I think there was another question. Oh, Wanin, the question was Dying Spire. Is it a sequel to the Sablewood? Well, I'm just gonna continue to share my screen here. Gen Con. This is my wish list for the Dying Spire. I'm currently in a game, but yeah, it's a brand new premiering at Gen Con, pre-generated characters. Those who've played the Quick Start will recognize familiar characters from the Sablewood. This adventure is designed as a self-contained experience for new players looking to jump in at a higher level of play. I hope it's 3. I hope it's level 3, at least. Maybe even 5. Let's get crazy. Or continue those who've already played the quick start. So I don't know if it's supposed to be like a I don't know if it's supposed to be like a sequel, but it's definitely gonna like reference it, or at least reference the characters. So yeah, let's keep looking. That's actually leading to another question. What do you think is missing from the Sablewood Messengers? Juanin, here's what I'll say. Because we're about to end the stream here. Watch the rest of the stream, because we actually answered that basically throughout. We had a couple technical difficulties at the beginning, but the VOD will be up like as soon as the stream ends. So definitely take a look at that, because there's a couple things. But once, as I said before, I think it was to Zane or CZ's question is or Sablewood Messengers, in my opinion, is like an 8.9 with some adjustments. It's a 10 out of like all the games of like quick starts or like first introductory one shots. But yeah, there's not a lot missing from Sablewood Messengers. There's a couple tweaks that I do that AJ has done, but other than that, yeah,
that's solid. I think you hit
stop.
all the major points of what Daggerheart is, so that's kind of the point.
Yeah. So, with that, AJ, you want to send us off?
Yeah, thank you guys for everyone who stopped by the stream. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, join our Discord. Actually, I think Salt just join our Discord, so that's awesome. Thank you for that. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Actually, will you see me next Tuesday? I don't think you see me next Tuesday. You'll see Daniel next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll be here by myself the next Tuesday. AJ's got work, but
got work.
I'll be here. So, anyways, dropping the Discord in there, so go and join. I'll see you over there. Let's do the Sage Touch intro. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Welcome to the Sage Touch Podcast. Welcome to the Sage. Tag team strikes, we connect through the pain. Rolling 2 dice in the echoes of rain. Hope in my chest, fear in my hand. Armor all cracked, but we taking a stand. Stress building up like the stories we weave. Every experience a mark that we leave. Connection questions mark where we've grown. Not just in combat, but when we're alone. From campaign frames to memories lost. We paying for the truth, but never count the cost. This is Sage Touch. This is Sage Touch. Let the sage. Welcome to the Sage. This is Sage Touch.